Predestination is wrong. The idea that God had decided from the beginning of the world that some people are going to heaven and hell. It actually highlights one of the biggest problems of religion, and the solution comes from psychology. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. The problem comes from this idea that God is omniscient, that God knows absolutely everything. And if God knows everything, then that means that God knew who was going to heaven or hell from the beginning of time. And yes, of course, this does require that you believe in heaven or hell. Okay, heaven and hell. But the real problem comes when you combine that with the idea that God is omnipotent, that God is sort of all-powerful. So if God knows everything from the beginning of time and is all-powerful, can choose what happens, then that means that God has actively chosen some people to go to heaven, some people to go to hell from the beginning of time, which contradicts a loving God and a God who wants people to choose. It contradicts the idea of free will. The problem in religion that this highlights is that religion is not logical. And that's because religion is trying to describe something that exists beyond our experience. And if something exists beyond our experience and sort of beyond our abilities, then that means that using the human logical mind and logical system cannot ultimately describe that thing. So here's the concept from psychology. It's an idea called cognitive dissonance. And it's what ends up calling people into this problematic belief. Cognitive dissonance is the idea that when two things disagree, our brains sort of create a narrative, try to unify those things, create a story or a concept that actually works. And the cognitive dissonance is a sort of negative mental state, right? It's something that we don't want and that our brains don't really like, because our brains like a cohesive narrative. It's problematic in a lot of parts of our life, but its problems really are highlighted here when it comes to religion. And so what we have to do is something that is kind of difficult as humans. Basically, we have to make friends with cognitive dissonance. We have to allow ourselves to hold two contradicting beliefs at the same time. And when we can find a way to do that, religion and life gets a lot easier, because we experience cognitive dissonance even within ourselves. Like, you might think that you are a pretty good person and then you do something bad, and if you aren't careful, you can sort of fall into this trap of thinking, well, that means that I am bad, because the cognitive dissonance wants to unify that into a single idea. And so we do this all the time. We hold some cognitive dissonance, believing that we are a good person, and we sometimes do bad things. And our grandparents are a good person in general. That's our experience of them, even though sometimes they say crazy things at Thanksgiving. So what I'm trying to say is I want to introduce you to a new friend when it comes to things that are beyond your experience: cognitive dissonance. And if you can get to a place where you can experience cognitive dissonance as a positive thing and hold two beliefs that seem to contradict, everything becomes a lot easier. You have a good dancing partner in life.